The quiet of deep space filled the bridge of the United Earth Defense Force flagship Sentinel. Captain James Miller stood at his usual spot, hands clasped behind his back, watching the endless sea of stars through the massive view screen. Everything was normal, just like any other day in humanity's space patrol, until it wasn't. "Captain," the young communications officer's voice cracked with excitement. "Sir, we're picking up something strange. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Miller walked over to the communication station, his boots making soft sounds against the polished floor. The officer's screen showed waves of unusual patterns, beautiful but completely foreign. "Explain," Miller said simply. "It's encrypted, sir, but not in any way we've seen. The patterns, they almost look like they're alive." The officer's fingers flew across his control panel. "And sir, it's coming from really far away, way beyond our usual range." Miller nodded slowly. After 15 years in space, he'd learned that anything unusual usually meant either great discovery or great trouble. Sometimes both. "Get our best people on it. I want to know what we're dealing with." Hours passed as the Sentinel's crew worked to decode the message. The ship's artificial intelligence helped, running millions of calculations per second. Finally, in the middle of what would have been Earth's night, they had a breakthrough. The main screen lit up with swirling colors that slowly formed into shapes. The bridge crew watched in amazement as they saw their first aliens. The beings looked almost like glowing jellyfish, floating in what seemed to be a crystal room. They were beautiful, but their movements showed fear. "We are the Luminary," the translation computer spoke, converting their musical language. "Our civilization faces extinction. We need help. Please, if anyone can hear us, we are a peaceful people. We have no weapons. The Ravagers are destroying everything." The message continued, showing scenes that made even the hardened space crew feel sick. Another alien race. Dark, angular ships, attacking bright, crystal cities. The Luminary weren't fighting back. They couldn't. They were simply trying to escape. "Send this to Earth's Security Council immediately," Miller ordered. Priority 1. Within minutes, screens lit up around Earth as humanity faced its first real test as a spacefaring species. The Security Council gathered in their underground chamber in Geneva, their faces grave as they watched the message. "They're practically defenseless," one council member said. "But can we trust this?" another asked. "It could be a trap." The debate raged for hours. The Luminary's coordinates showed they were far away, but still within reach of Earth's most advanced ships. The question wasn't if they could help, it was if they should. Admiral Jones, the oldest member of the council, finally stood up. The room fell quiet. "For centuries," he said, "we thought we were cursed. Our world was harder than most. We evolved to be stronger, faster, more aggressive than we probably needed to be. We called Earth a death world when we learned about other planets. We worried that we'd be seen as monsters by any aliens we met." He paused, looking at each council member. "But maybe we became strong so we could protect those who couldn't protect themselves." The council chamber stayed quiet for a long moment. Then, one by one, they began to nod. Back on the Sentinel, Captain Miller received his new orders. His ship would lead the first response team. As he read the details, a small smile crossed his face. Humanity had spent so long worrying about its place among the stars. They had higher gravity, tougher muscles, quicker reflexes, and more aggressive instincts than most species would probably have. They were Deathworlders, evolved on a planet that demanded strength to survive. But now, those same traits that made them different would let them help others. They would be protectors, not monsters. "Set course for the Luminary coordinates," Miller ordered. "Send word to all Earth ships in range. We have people to save." As the Sentinel's engines powered up, Miller watched his crew prepare for their first real mission of galactic importance. They didn't know exactly what they would face, but they knew one thing: Humanity would show the galaxy that being strong didn't mean you had to be cruel. Sometimes, the strongest are the ones who protect the weak. The stars streaked by as the Sentinel jumped to faster than light speed, racing to answer the call that would change humanity's destiny forever. Ambassador Robert Hayes adjusted his environment suit one last time before stepping out of the shuttle. The luminary homeworld spread out before him, a sight that made him catch his breath. Crystal towers rose into the pink sky, their surfaces catching the light of 3 distant suns and breaking it into rainbow patterns. "Sir," one of his security team said, "our sensors show the air here would be toxic to most Earth life." But the guard checked his readings again, looking confused. "But we're only reading mild discomfort for humans. Nothing dangerous." Hayes nodded. Their hosts, the Luminary, floated nearby, their jellyfish-like bodies glowing with patterns of blue and green. Through their translators, they had called this place a harsh environment. To humans, it was just a bit uncomfortable, like a humid day back on Earth. "Welcome, Earth representatives," the Lid Luminary sang, their words turning into clear English through the translation computers. "We are honored by your brave journey into our dangerous atmosphere." Hayes smiled behind his suit's clear mask. What the Luminary considered dangerous was nothing compared to an average Earth thunderstorm. Still, he kept this thought to himself. "The honor is ours," he said. "We've never seen a civilization as beautiful as yours." The Luminary led them through floating crystal pathways toward a grand meeting hall. Along the way, Hayes and his team saw more of the alien city. Gardens floated in the air, filled with plants that seemed to be made of light. Luminary children, smaller, brighter versions of the adults, danced through the air in patterns that looked like living art. "Your people have mastered beauty," Hayes said honestly. "And your people have mastered survival," the lead Luminary responded. "We've studied the data you shared. Your world, Earth, it would kill most species in the galaxy. The gravity alone would crush many races. The weather patterns would destroy them. The varieties of terrain would make survival impossible." Before Hayes could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the crystal city. The beautiful lights dimmed. Fear patterns flashed across the Luminaries' bodies. "They're here," one of the Luminary whispered. "The Ravagers found us again." Dark shapes appeared in the pink sky. Ships that looked like they were made from black metal and sharp angles. Everything about them seemed designed to hurt, to destroy. Hayes watched as the Luminary around him began to retreat, their bodies flashing with terror patterns. But he also saw something else. The humans in his team were moving forward, their bodies tensing for action. "How many people in that section of the city?" Hayes asked quickly, pointing to where the Ravager ships were heading. "Thousands," the Lid Luminary sang sadly. "But we cannot fight. We have no weapons. We never needed them before." Hayes touched his communicator. "Captain Miller, are you seeing this?" "Already on it, Ambassador." Miller's voice came back. "The Sentinel and her battle group just dropped out of FTL. Those Ravager ships are about to learn what picking on the helpless gets you when Earth is watching." The sky lit up with new arrivals, Earth's ships, led by the Sentinel. They were smaller than the Ravager vessels but moved with incredible speed. The Luminary watched in amazement as the human ships performed maneuvers that seemed impossible, dodging the Ravagers' attacks while landing hits of their own. "Your ships," one young Luminary sang. "They move like they're alive." Hayes smiled. "On Earth, we had to learn to move fast or die. Now we use that skill to protect others." The battle above the Crystal City was short but fierce. When it ended, the Ravager ships were either destroyed or running away. The Luminaries' lights had changed from fear patterns to amazement. "In all our history," the lead Luminary said, "we've never seen such strength." Hayes suggested. "Hope," the Luminary corrected. "We've never seen such hope. Your people are what we thought impossible, warriors who protect instead of destroy." Hayes looked up at the Earth ships, now standing guard over the Crystal City. That's humanity's choice, he said. We could use our strength to conquer. Instead, we choose to protect. Being strong doesn't mean you have to be cruel. The luminary's lights pulsed with new patterns. Trust, relief, and something like joy. First contact had succeeded, but more importantly, humanity had proven itself. They weren't monsters from a death world. They were guardians, using their hard-earned strength to protect those who needed it most. Captain Miller walked through the massive space station called Unity, watching aliens from a dozen different peaceful species working together. Just 1 month after defending the luminary, humanity had discovered they weren't the only ones who needed protection from the Ravagers. "Captain," a voice called out. Miller turned to see a tall, plant-like being walking toward him. It was one of the gardeners, aliens who could grow and shape living things. Their green skin looked like tree bark, and small flowers bloomed around their heads. "Head Gardener Oak," Miller greeted them. "How are the new defense systems coming along?" The gardener's flowers changed color to show happiness. "Very well. We've created living walls that can heal themselves after damage. Combined with your human weapons, they make excellent defenses." Miller nodded, still amazed by how quickly things had changed. After the battle at the Luminary homeworld, other peaceful species had reached out to Earth. They all had amazing skills but couldn't fight. The gardeners could grow anything from food to buildings. The architects could build massive space stations in days. But none of them could defend themselves from the Ravagers. Captain Miller to the command center. His communicator buzzed. "Priority message from Earth." In the command center, Miller found Ambassador Hayes already waiting. The main screen showed Admiral Jones back on Earth. "We've gotten 5 more distress calls," the Admiral said. "The Ravagers are attacking everywhere at once. But we've also gotten something interesting. Some of their own people want to talk." "Talk?" Miller asked. "The Ravagers want to talk." "A small group," Jones explained. "They say they're scientists. They want to meet with us in secret." Hayes stepped forward. "This could be our chance to understand why they're attacking everyone." Miller looked around the command center. Luminary floated near the ceiling, their lights helping to process data. Gardeners tended to living computer systems that were faster than anything Earth had built. Architect engineers worked on station designs that could house millions of refugees. "Where's the meeting?" Miller asked. "That's the interesting part," Jones said. "They want to meet here at Unity Station. They say they've heard it's the only place in the galaxy where different species work together in peace." Just then, alarms started blaring. A young human officer ran into the command center. "Sir, Ravager fleet detected. At least 30 ships." Miller turned to Hayes. "Could your scientist friends be a trap?" "Possible," Hayes admitted. "But we're stronger now than we were a month ago." Miller touched his command screen, and his voice rang through the whole station. "All hands to battle stations. Gardeners, activate the living shields. Architects, seal all emergency doors. Luminary, we need your light speed calculations. Everyone else, you know what to do." The station came alive with activity. The gardeners' living walls grew thicker. The architects' special metals shifted to create better armor. The luminaries' lights flashed as they processed battle data faster than any computer. And in the middle of it all, human soldiers and ships prepared to fight. The Ravager fleet appeared, their black ships looking even more threatening up close. But Unity Station was ready. The living walls absorbed their first attacks. Human ships launched from hidden bays, moving so fast they were hard to track. The luminaries' calculations let them predict where each enemy ship would move. "Sir," an officer called out, 3 Ravager ships are trying to surrender. They're broadcasting on all channels." On the main screen, a Ravager appeared. They looked like they were made of dark crystal and sharp edges, but their voice shook with emotion. "Please," they said, "we saw how you work together, how you protect each other. Our leaders told us we had to fight to survive, but you found a better way." Miller looked at Hayes, who nodded. "All ships hold fire. Miller ordered. "Let's hear what they have to say." As the battle paused, Miller thought about how far they'd come. Humans had gone from worrying about being seen as violent Deathworlders to leading an alliance of peaceful species. And now maybe they could even help their enemies find a better path. Unity Station lived up to its name that day. It became the place where former enemies took the first steps toward becoming friends, all under the protection of the humans who had chosen to use their strength to defend rather than destroy. Commander Lisa Thompson crouched behind a fallen crystal pillar, her squad of Marines waiting for her signal. Above them, the massive space station called New Hope hung in space, half its sections taken over by Ravager forces. This would be the biggest battle yet, and the first time humans would fight the Ravagers face to face. "Remember," she whispered into her comlink, "our allies have given us every advantage they could. Gardener armor, architect sensors, luminary battle calculations. Let's show them it was worth it." The Ravagers had attacked New Hope Station 3 days ago. Thinking it would be an easy target, they hadn't expected to find human Marines waiting inside. They also hadn't expected the station itself to fight back, its walls alive with Gardener defenses and architect tricks. "Enemy squad approaching," her sergeant reported. 15 Ravagers, heavy weapons. Thompson smiled. On their home planet, humans had evolved to be quick and strong because they had to be. Earth's high gravity and dangerous environments had made them tough. Now those same traits were about to surprise the Ravagers. "All teams go," she ordered. Human Marines burst from cover all through the station's corridor. The Ravagers, used to fighting weaker species, weren't ready for enemies who could match their strength and exceed their speed. Thompson led the charge, moving faster than the Ravagers thought possible in the station's artificial gravity. Their crystal-like bodies made them tough, but human muscles, evolved to fight Earth's gravity, gave the Marines the advantage. "They're so fast," she heard one Ravager shout through the translation computer. "How can they move like that?" The battle spread through the station. In some sections, Ravagers found themselves fighting living walls that the Gardeners had grown. In others, architect-designed rooms would suddenly change shape, trapping enemy soldiers. And everywhere, human Marines moved with speed and strength that seemed impossible. "Thompson." Captain Miller's voice came through her comlink. "Ravager ships are pulling back from the station. They're retreating." She reached a viewport just in time to see it. The black Ravager ships were turning away, running from the combined fleet of human vessels and their allies. The Luminaries' lightships danced between the stars, their calculations letting the human gunners target with perfect accuracy. "Command center secured," her sergeant reported. "The last Ravagers inside are surrendering. They're asking how we got so strong." Thompson walked to where her troops were guarding a group of captured Ravagers. The aliens looked different up close. Not just scary and sharp, but tired. Tired of fighting. "Your species," one Ravager said, looking at Thompson. "You're different from the others. You're like us, evolved to be strong. But you protect instead of take. Why?" "Because that's what real strength is," Thompson answered. "Being strong doesn't mean you have to hurt others. It means you can protect those who need it." The news spread quickly across the galaxy. The Battle of New Hope Station became the first major victory against the Ravagers. Not just because of the fighting, but because of what it proved. It showed that humanity's Deathworlder strength, combined with their allies' special skills, could create something new, a force that could defend without destroying. In the station's repaired command center, Thompson stood with Captain Miller and Ambassador Hayes, watching the combined fleet patrol the saved station. Human ships flew alongside luminary light vessels. Gardener bioships grew and healed in space. Architect repair craft rebuilt damaged sections faster than seemed possible. "The Ravagers will think twice now," Miller said. "They've never lost a battle like this." More importantly, Hayes added, their soldiers saw something new. They saw strength used to protect, not conquer. Thompson nodded, thinking of the surrendered Ravagers' questions. Maybe that's the real victory here. We didn't just prove we could beat them. We proved there's a better way to be strong. As she watched the fleet patrol, Thompson felt proud. Humans had once worried their strength would make them outcasts among the stars. Instead, it had made them protectors, teachers, and maybe now, even peacemakers. The Battle of New Hope Station lived up to its name. It gave hope to peaceful species across the galaxy, and maybe even to some Ravagers who were tired of fighting. It showed that the strongest warriors could also be the greatest guardians of peace. The captured Ravager ship hung in space near Unity Station, its black crystal hull no longer looking as threatening as it once did. Inside, Ambassador Hayes walked through dark corridors with 2 human guards, heading to meet with the Ravager scientists who had chosen to surrender. "The ship's dying," one of the Ravager scientists said as Hayes entered their meeting room. "Just like our worlds are dying." Hayes sat down across from the scientist, whose crystal-like body seemed dimmer than others he had seen. "Tell me about your worlds," he said quietly. The scientist's sharp edges seemed to droop. "We evolved on harsh worlds, like humans did. But our worlds are failing now. The crystals that give us life are running out. Our leaders told us we had to take from others to survive." As the scientist talked, data flowed across screens around them. Hayes watched in growing surprise as he learned the truth. The Ravagers weren't just being cruel. They were desperate. Their home planets were dying. The special crystals they needed for food and energy almost gone. "Why didn't you ask for help?" Hayes wondered. "Ask?" The scientist made a sharp, laughing sound. "We're the strong ones, the evolved ones. Our leaders said asking for help would make us weak, like the species we attacked." Back on Unity Station, Hayes shared what he had learned with Captain Miller and Commander Thompson. The Luminary floated nearby, their lights dim with sadness as they understood the Ravager's story. "They're not so different from us," Miller said, looking at the data. "They evolved on tough worlds. They grew strong to survive. But they chose a different path with that strength. Their worlds are running out of crystal energy," Hayes explained. "Without it, their entire species will die. That's why they're attacking everyone, trying to take enough crystals to survive." Thompson studied the reports from the Ravager ship. "These readings, their ship isn't just damaged, it's starving. They use these crystals for everything: food, energy, even growing new ships." Just then, one of the gardeners rushed into the room, their flowers glowing with excitement. "We can help them. My people, we can grow things, reshape living matter. If we work with the architects and study their crystals. You could help them grow new crystal sources," Hayes finished, understanding lighting his face. "We could save their worlds." The news spread through Unity Station. The Luminary offered their scientific knowledge. The architects suggested ways to build new crystal-growing facilities. The gardeners believed they could learn to grow the crystals themselves. But not everyone agreed with helping the Ravagers. Many humans and aliens wanted to keep fighting, to punish them for what they had done. Hayes found himself arguing with military leaders from Earth. "They killed innocent people," one general said angrily. "They destroyed whole cities." "Yes," Hayes agreed. "And they were wrong. But we have a choice now. We can keep fighting, keep destroying, or we can show them the thing they never understood about true strength." "And what's that?" the general demanded. "That the strongest hand can be the one reached out to help," Hayes answered quietly. In the days that followed, more Ravager scientists came forward. They brought data about their dying worlds, samples of their crystals, and something even more valuable: hope. Hope that there might be a way to save their people without destroying others. The Luminary studied the crystals, their light-based science, finding new ways to grow them. The gardeners experimented with crystal seeds, learning to grow small gardens of them. The architects designed massive facilities that could grow crystals faster than nature. And the humans? They protected everyone while they worked. Their ships guarded science stations. Their soldiers kept the peace. Their strength made sure Not even angry ravagers who opposed peace could stop the work of saving lives. Hayes stood in Unity Station's observation deck, watching teams of former enemies working together. Ravager scientists worked beside luminary researchers. Gardeners taught Ravager children how to grow crystal gardens. Humans and Ravagers patrolled together, protecting the work that could save worlds. Sometimes, he said to himself, understanding your enemy is the greatest victory of all. Operation Sanctuary began at dawn, Earth time. Captain Miller stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, watching as the massive fleet moved into position around the main Ravager homeworld. But this was unlike any fleet the galaxy had ever seen before. All ships report ready, his communications officer said. Luminary light ships, Gardener biovessels, Architect construction ships. And, sir, we're getting signals from the Ravager rebel ships too. Miller nodded. Nearly a third of the Ravager fleet had joined them after learning about the crystal growing project. They called themselves the New Path Ravagers, choosing to help save their worlds instead of destroying others. Begin Operation Sanctuary, Miller ordered. All ships, take your positions. The operation was bigger than anything humans had tried before. They weren't just fighting the Ravagers who still attacked peaceful worlds. They were trying to save the Ravager species itself. Architect ships moved in first, their massive hulls carrying pieces of crystal-growing stations. Gardener vessels followed, ready to start the process of healing the dying Ravager worlds. Luminary light ships danced between them, their calculations guiding every move. But they weren't alone out there. Dark ships appeared on the sensors. The Ravager war fleet, led by generals who refused to believe in peace. Enemy ships approaching. Commander Thompson reported from her marine carrier. They're charging weapons. Hold position, Miller ordered. Let them see what we're really doing here. The first Architect station opened like a flower in space, revealing gleaming crystal gardens already growing inside. Gardener ships connected to it, their biological technology feeding the crystal growth. Luminary light ships focused their energy, making the crystals grow faster than anyone thought possible. On the Ravager homeworld below, millions watched as new crystal formations began to shine in their sky. Many had never seen such bright, healthy crystals before. Sir, his sensor officer called out. More Ravager ships approaching. But they're not attacking. They're asking to help. Miller smiled as he watched more Ravager ships break away from their war fleet. They had finally understood. Humanity and its allies weren't there to destroy them. They were there to save them. How are the crystal readings? Miller asked. The new growths are stable, a luminary scientist reported, their lights flashing with joy. The Gardener's methods are working even better than we hoped. These crystals will feed the Ravager worlds for centuries. But the war wasn't over yet. Some Ravager ships still attacked, refusing to believe in peace. Human ships met them in battle, their strength protecting the workers trying to save the Ravager worlds. But something was different now. Many Ravager ships fought alongside the humans, protecting the future of their own people. Look at the scans of the planet, Ambassador Hayes said, joining Miller on the bridge. The old crystal beds are already starting to heal. The gardeners say that in a few months, there will be enough food and energy for everyone. Miller watched as more Architect stations opened, each one carrying hope in the form of new crystal gardens. The gardeners had learned to grow crystals faster than anyone thought possible. The luminaries' light science made them stronger than natural crystals, and the Ravagers themselves were learning to grow and tend their own crystal gardens, ensuring they would never face starvation again. Enemy fleet is standing down, Thompson reported. The last warships. They're surrendering. They're asking to join the crystal growing project. Hayes smiled. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to save your enemy. The operation continued for days as more stations were built, more crystals were grown, and more Ravagers joined the effort to save their worlds. The species that had once tried to take everything from others was learning a new way to be strong. Unity stations sent reports across the galaxy. Operation Sanctuary was working. The Ravager worlds would live. Their people would survive. And they had learned what humanity had been trying to teach all along. True strength comes from helping others, not hurting them. Miller looked at the reformed Ravager ships working alongside his fleet. "Welcome to the family," he said quietly. "It's about time we all learn to grow together instead of fighting alone." 1 year after Operation Sanctuary began, Unity Station had grown so large it looked like a small city in space. Captain Miller walked through its bustling corridors, seeing something that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Members of every species working together in peace. Luminary floated near the ceiling, their lights helping guide ships into the station's docks. Gardeners tended to crystal gardens where young Ravagers learned to grow their own food. Architect engineers worked with human construction teams to build new sections of the station. "Captain," a voice called out. Miller turned to see a Ravager walking toward him, but not with the sharp, aggressive movements they once had. This one moved with calm purpose. "The first graduation ceremony is about to begin." Miller smiled. This was what they had all been working toward. In the station's main hall, hundreds gathered to watch as the first class of the Galactic Defense Council completed their training. Young members of every species stood together, ready to take their oath of service. Ambassador Hayes stood at the podium, looking out at the graduates. There were humans who had come from Earth to learn from other species. Luminary who had trained to be braver. Gardeners who had learned to use their powers to protect. And yes, even Ravagers who had chosen to become guardians instead of destroyers. "When we first met the Luminary," Hayes began, "we thought we were just answering a call for help. We didn't know we were answering a call that would change the galaxy forever." Miller watched as Commander Thompson led the graduates in their oath. Each species took it in their own way. Humans saluted. Luminary glowed with patterns of dedication. Gardeners bloomed with flowers of promise, and Ravagers stood tall with pride instead of aggression. "Today," Thompson said to the graduates, "you become part of something new. Not just a defense force, but a promise. A promise that nobody in this galaxy needs to be helpless again." The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, people watched as their children became part of this new force for peace. On the reformed Ravager worlds, now green with crystal gardens, families celebrated as their young people chose a path of protection instead of destruction. After the ceremony, Miller joined Hayes and Thompson in the station's observation deck. Below them, the first Galactic Defense Council patrol ships prepared to launch. Each ship carried crew members from different species, all working together. "Hard to believe it all started with one distress call," Thompson said, watching the ships. Hayes nodded. "The Luminary called for help, thinking they were too weak to survive. We answered, thinking we were too aggressive to be accepted. And look what happened. We all learned that our differences make us stronger together." Speaking of strength, Miller added, "The latest reports from the Ravager worlds show crystal production is higher than ever. The Gardeners' teaching programs are working. They'll never need to raid other worlds again." A group of graduates walked past the observation deck. A human officer talking with a Luminary scientist, a gardener teaching a Ravager about new crystal growing techniques, and an architect discussing station designs with them all. "You know what I'm most proud of?" Hayes asked, watching them. "We didn't just stop a war. We didn't just save worlds. We proved that being strong doesn't mean you have to be alone." Miller touched a control panel, bringing up a galaxy map. Across it, hundreds of points of light showed Unity stations being built near different worlds. Each one would house members of the Defense Council, ready to protect anyone who needed help. "The galaxy used to be divided," Thompson said. "Peaceful species lived in fear. Aggressive species fought each other. And everybody thought humans would be the worst of all, coming from our death world with our fast reflexes and strong muscles. Instead," Hayes finished, "we became the bridge. We showed that strength can protect instead of harm. That being tough enough to survive means being tough enough to help others survive too." As the first patrol ships launched from the station, Miller watched the graduates begin their mission. Humans had found their place in the galaxy, not as monsters from a death world, but as protectors who used their strength to guard the peace. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating this new dawn. A dawn where no species had to face danger alone, where strength meant protection instead of power, and where the call for help had led to something greater than anyone had imagined. A galaxy united in peace.
Like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating amazing content for you.